The blood came first, warm and shocking against the frozen ground, spreading like spilled wine across virgin snow while her father's boots crunched away into the distance without a single backward glance. Lily Norwood pressed both hands against the knife wound in her side, but the blood kept coming, seeping between her fingers as the winter cold of the Sierra Nevada mountains settled into her bones. It was December 1878, and Bodie, California sat 3 miles away through the snow, a glittering promise of lantern light and wood smoke that might as well have been 100. Her father had finally made good on his threats. 20 years of disappointment in having a daughter instead of a son had culminated in this, a drunken rage after she refused to marry the claim jumper who had offered him $200 and a partnership in a worthless mine shaft. The blade had been quick, his departure quicker, and now Lily lay dying in the snow while the sun dropped behind the mountains and turned everything the color of blood and ash. She did not pray. God had stopped listening to her prayers the day her mother died of consumption when Lily was 12. Instead, she focused on breathing, on keeping pressure on the wound, on not letting the darkness creeping at the edges of her vision pull her under. The snow beneath her was turning red, a grotesque halo that grew wider with each labored breath. The sound of hoofbeats reached her first. Then a voice, rough and startled. Jesus Christ. Boots hit the ground running. Lily tried to focus her eyes, tried to make sense of the shape dropping to its knees beside her, but everything had gone soft and blurry around the edges. Strong hands pushed hers away from the wound, and she wanted to protest, to tell him she was the only thing holding herself together, but her voice would not work anymore. "Stay with me," the voice commanded. It was deep and steady, the kind of voice that expected to be obeyed. "Look at me. Keep your eyes open." She tried. She caught glimpses of him through the gathering darkness. Young, maybe 25, with dark hair falling across his forehead and eyes the color of storm clouds. His hands were bare, pressing down hard on her wound, and she realized dimly that he had torn his shirt, was wadding the fabric against her side with a pressure that made her gasp. "That is right, breathe. Keep breathing." His face was close to hers now, his breath making clouds in the frozen air. "My name is Parker Quinlan. I am not going to let you die out here. Do you understand me? You are not dying today." Lily wanted to tell him that she had no say in the matter, that death took who it wanted regardless of what cowboys with storm-colored eyes demanded. But his hands were warm against her frozen skin, and the pressure was slowing the blood flow. She could feel it, the terrible seeping finally beginning to ease. He had pulled off his coat and wrapped it around her, never letting up the pressure on her wound. "Can you tell me your name?" he asked, his voice cutting through the fog in her head. "Lily," she managed, her voice barely a whisper. "Lily Norwood. Lily." He said it like a prayer. "Stay with me, Lily. I have a ranch 2 miles north. I can get you there, get you warm, stitch this up properly, but I need you to stay conscious. Can you do that for me?" She nodded, though the effort it took was enormous. Parker kept one hand pressed firm against the makeshift bandage and used the other to scoop her up, cradling her against his chest as he stood. She cried out at the movement, the pain flaring white-hot through her entire body. I know," he murmured, his voice rough with something that might have been fear. "But we have to move. The cold will kill you as surely as this wound if we stay here." He settled her onto his horse, a big bay gelding that stood patient as stone and then swung up behind her. His arm came around her waist, holding her upright against his chest, his other hand returning to press against the wound. Lily could feel his heart beating strong and steady against her back. "Go on, Chester," Parker said to the horse, and they started moving through the snow at a pace that was fast enough to matter but careful enough not to jostle her too badly. Lily drifted in and out as they rode. She was aware of his voice, talking to her constantly, telling her about his ranch, about the cattle he was raising, about anything and everything to keep her tethered to consciousness. She learned that he had come to California from Texas 3 years ago with his brother, that they had built the ranch from nothing, that he had been heading back from Bodie when he found her. His voice was a lifeline in the darkness, and she clung to it with everything she had left. The ranch appeared out of the snowy twilight like a miracle. A sturdy cabin with smoke curling from the chimney, a barn, corrals, the shapes of cattle huddled against the cold. Parker shouted something, and the cabin door flew open. A man who looked enough like Parker to be his brother came running out. "Patrick, help me," Parker said, dismounting with Lily still held against him. "Knife wound, been bleeding for God knows how long. I need hot water, clean cloth, needle and thread." Patrick took one look at the blood-soaked fabric pressed against Lily's side and ran back inside. Parker carried her through the door and laid her on a table that had been hastily cleared. The warmth of the cabin hit her like a physical force, and she started shaking uncontrollably. "Shock," Parker said, though whether he was talking to her or his brother, Lily was not sure. "Patrick, get those blankets. Lily, stay with me. Look at me." She tried, but everything was spinning. Hands were moving over her, cutting away her dress, pressing warm cloth against her side. She heard Parker's voice, steady and calm, telling Patrick what to do. Felt the sharp sting of whiskey poured directly into the wound, bit back the scream that tried to tear its way out of her throat. "I am sorry," Parker said, his face appearing above hers. "I have to stitch it closed." "It is going to hurt. Patrick, hold her still." Patrick's hands came down on her shoulders, gentle but firm, and then the needle pierced her skin. Lily did scream then, could not help it, and Parker's jaw clenched but his hands stayed steady, pulling thread through torn flesh with practiced efficiency. He had done this before, she realized. Probably on cattle, maybe on men. The West was not gentle with anyone. "Almost done," he murmured. "You are doing so well, Lily. Just a little more." She fixed her eyes on his face, used it as an anchor against the pain. There was something fierce in his expression, a determination that bordered on anger, as if her dying would be a personal affront he could not allow. When he finally tied off the last stitch and stepped back, he was breathing hard, his hands shaking slightly as he cleaned the blood off them. "Will she make it?" Patrick asked quietly. Parker looked at Lily for a long moment. "The wound is closed. If infection does not set in, if she can fight through the blood loss, then yes. But the next few days will tell." He cleaned the stitches carefully, applied a salve that smelled of herbs and grease, and wrapped her torso in clean bandages. Then he and Patrick moved her to a bed in the corner of the cabin, piling blankets on top of her until the shaking finally began to subside. Lily felt the darkness pulling at her again, but this time it was not death, just exhaustion. "Sleep," Parker said, his hand resting briefly on her forehead. "You are safe now." She wanted to ask him why he cared, why a stranger would go to such lengths, but sleep dragged her under before she could form the words. Lily woke to lamplight and the sound of men talking in low voices. Her side was a mass of throbbing pain, but it was a clean pain, the kind that meant she was still alive. She turned her head carefully and saw Parker and Patrick sitting at the table, playing cards. Parker's gaze flicked to her immediately, as if he had been watching for any sign of movement. "You are awake," he said, rising and crossing to the bed. He crouched beside her, his hand going to her forehead to check for fever. "How do you feel?" "Like I was stabbed," Lily managed, her voice hoarse. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. "Fair enough." "Can you drink some water?" She nodded, and he helped her sit up enough to sip from a tin cup. The water was cold and perfect, and she drank greedily until he pulled the cup away. Not too much at once, he said. You have been out for almost a full day. Your body needs time to adjust. A day. She looked toward the window and saw pale morning light filtering through. You needed the rest. I checked your stitches a few times, changed the bandages. No sign of infection yet, which is a good sign. He set the cup aside and studied her face. Lily, I need to ask, who did this to you? The question brought it all back. The argument, her father's rage, the knife. She closed her eyes against the memory. My father, she said quietly. He wanted me to marry a man named Jacob Trent. I refused. He had been drinking and he got angry. I did not think he would actually do it, but then the knife was in my side and he was walking away. Parker's expression went cold, something dangerous flickering in his storm-gray eyes. Your father stabbed you and left you to die in the snow because you would not marry someone. He has never forgiven me for not being born a son. This was just the final disappointment. She tried to keep her voice steady, but it cracked on the last word. Patrick had come to stand behind his brother, his face grim. That is not a father. That is a monster. He is gone now, Lily said. I saw him walking toward Bodie. He probably thinks I am dead already. You want him brought to justice? Parker asked, his voice carefully neutral. Lily thought about it, about her father standing trial, about having to relive that moment in front of a courtroom full of strangers. About the likelihood that anyone would actually punish a man for what he did to his own daughter. The West was hard on women, harder still on women without family or money. No, she said finally. I just want to be free of him. Parker nodded slowly. Then he is gone from your life. You are here now and you are safe. That is what matters. Over the next week, Lily learned the rhythms of the Quinlan ranch. Parker and Patrick worked cattle, mended fences, hauled hay through the snow. They were good men, she realized, the kind who worked hard and expected no praise for it. Patrick was the younger brother by 2 years, quick to laugh and easy with conversation. But it was Parker who Lily found her eyes drawn to. Parker who checked her stitches every morning and evening with hands that were surprisingly gentle. Parker who sat by her bed in the evenings and talked to her about everything and nothing. He told her about growing up in Texas, about watching his parents lose everything in the war and its aftermath, about making the decision to head west and build something new. He told her about the first winter on the ranch, when they had nearly lost everything to a blizzard, about the slow, hard work of building something that would last. Why did you stop? Lily asked one evening. When you found me, you could have kept riding. Most people would have. Parker looked at her for a long moment, the lamplight casting shadows across his face. No, I could not have. You were dying. What kind of man rides past that? Most men, Lily said quietly. Then most men are cowards. He leaned back in his chair. My mother used to say that the measure of a person is what they do when no one is watching, when there is no reward in it except knowing you did the right thing. I found you, Lily. That made you my responsibility. I am not your responsibility. Maybe not. But you are here and you are healing, and I am glad I found you when I did. His eyes met hers. I am glad you are alive. Something shifted in the air between them, something warm and tentative and terrifying. Lily looked away first, her heart beating too fast. By the second week, Lily was able to get out of bed for short periods, though the wound still pulled and ached with every movement. She insisted on helping where she could, and Parker reluctantly agreed to let her peel vegetables and help with small tasks that did not require much movement. They fell into an easy companionship, working side by side in the warm cabin while snow fell steadily outside. Tell me about yourself, Parker said one afternoon as they sat at the table, Lily mending a shirt while he worked on repairing a bridle. Before all this, what was your life like? Lily hesitated. Her life before felt like a distant, unpleasant dream. My mother died when I was 12. After that, it was just me and my father. He worked claims around Bodie, never found anything worth keeping. We moved around a lot. I learned to cook, to clean, to make do with nothing. When I turned 18, he started trying to marry me off, said I was just a drain on his resources. You were a child he should have protected, Parker said, his voice hard. I was a burden he wanted to be rid of. She set down the shirt. He finally succeeded. No. Parker reached across the table and took her hand, his calloused fingers warm around hers. He tried to kill you and he failed. You survived. You are here and you are building a new life. That is not success for him. That is victory for you. Lily felt tears prick her eyes. No one had ever talked to her like this, like she mattered, like her life had value beyond what she could provide for someone else. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she whispered. Parker's thumb traced small circles on the back of her hand. "Because you deserve kindness. Because when I found you in that snow, something in my chest went tight and has not loosened since. Because every time I check your stitches and see that you are healing, I feel something I have not felt in a long time." He paused. "Hope." "Parker," she breathed, but she did not know what to say after his name. "You do not have to say anything," he said quietly. "I am not asking for anything, Lily. I just want you to know that you are wanted here, that I want you here." The words settled into her chest, warm and solid as river stones. She turned her hand over in his, lacing their fingers together. "I want to be here too," she said. The winter deepened, and with it, something grew between Lily and Parker that neither of them had names for. It was in the way his hand lingered on her shoulder when he checked her wound, in the way she watched for him through the window when he was out working, in the quiet evenings when they sat by the fire and talked about their dreams, their fears, the futures they hoped to build. Patrick watched them with knowing eyes and a small smile, but he was kind enough not to comment. Instead, he gave them space, finding reasons to be in the barn or out checking the cattle when the air in the cabin grew too charged with things unsaid. By March, Lily's wound had healed to a puckered pink scar, still tender but no longer painful. She was stronger now, able to help with more of the daily work. She baked bread that made both brothers groan with pleasure, cooked stews that stuck to their ribs through long days in the cold, and slowly transformed the rough bachelor cabin into something that felt like a home. "You have a gift for this," Parker said one evening, looking around at the curtains she had sewn from old flour sacks, the wildflowers in a jar on the table, the way everything seemed brighter and warmer than it had before. "I like making things beautiful," Lily said. "I never got to before. My father thought it was a waste of time. It is not a waste." Parker crossed to where she stood by the stove. "None of this is a waste, Lily. You belong here." She turned to face him, her heart climbing into her throat. He was close, close enough that she could see the flecks of blue in his gray eyes, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. "Parker," she said, and this time when she said his name, it sounded like a question. He answered it by cupping her face in his hands and kissing her softly, carefully, like she was something precious that might break. Lily melted into him, her hands coming up to grip his shirt, and kissed him back with all the hope and fear and longing she had been holding inside. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Parker rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said simply. "I have loved you since I saw you fighting to stay alive in that snow, since you looked at me with those fierce eyes and refused to give up. I know it is too soon, I know you might not feel the same, but I needed you to know." "It is not too soon," Lily whispered. "And I do feel the same. I love you, Parker Quinlan. You saved my life and then you gave me a reason to want to live it." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Lily felt something inside her chest unlock and bloom. This was what it was supposed to feel like. Not her father's bitter disappointment or Jacob Trent's calculating assessment. This was love, real and true and terrifying in its intensity. Spring came to the Sierra Nevada in a rush of snowmelt and wildflowers. The cattle grew fat on new grass, and the Quinlan ranch prospered. Parker asked Lily to marry him on a morning when the meadow behind the cabin was carpeted in lupine and Indian paintbrush, the words tumbling out nervous and earnest. She said yes before he even finished the question, and the smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. They were married in Bodie in late May 1879 by a circuit preacher, with Patrick as witness and half the town in attendance. Lily wore a dress that Patrick had ridden all the way to Carson City to purchase, pale blue silk that made her eyes look like summer sky. Parker wore his best suit and looked so handsome that Lily could barely breathe when she saw him waiting at the end of the aisle. "I promise to love you for the rest of my life," he said when it was time for vows. "To protect you, to honor you, to make you laugh when you are sad and hold you when you are scared. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Lily Norwood, and I will spend every day proving myself worthy of you." Lily was crying by the time he finished, happy tears that she did not bother to wipe away. "You already saved my life once," she said. "Now you have given me a new one, a better one. I promise to love you with everything I have, to stand beside you through whatever comes, to build a life with you that would have seemed impossible 6 months ago. You are my home, Parker Quinlan." When the preacher pronounced them married and Parker kissed her, the assembled crowd erupted in cheers. Patrick was grinning so wide his face looked like it might split, and even the grizzled miners who had shown up just for the free whiskey looked misty-eyed. The celebration lasted well into the night, but eventually Parker and Lily escaped back to the ranch, riding together on Chester under a sky full of stars. The cabin glowed with lamplight, and when Parker lifted her down from the horse, he did not set her feet on the ground right away. "Welcome home, Mrs. Quinlan," he murmured against her ear. "I have been home for months," Lily said, looping her arms around his neck. "But thank you for making it official." He carried her across the threshold, both of them laughing, and kicked the door closed behind them. Patrick had made himself scarce for the night, claiming he was going to stay with a friend in town, and the cabin was theirs alone. Parker set Lily down gently, his hands coming up to frame her face. "Are you sure about this? About me? Because once we start this life together, I am not letting you go. I have been sure since you pressed your bare hands against my wound and refused to let me die," Lily said. "I am yours, Parker, completely." He kissed her then, slow and deep, and Lily lost herself in the taste of him, the feel of his hands moving over her body with reverent care. He was gentle with her, mindful of the scar on her side, and when they finally came together, it felt like the completion of something that had begun in the snow 6 months ago. They moved together in the lamplight, learning each other's rhythms, and when release finally crashed over them, Lily cried out his name like a benediction. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the narrow bed, Lily's head on Parker's chest, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her bare shoulder. "I never thought I could have this," she said quietly. "A husband who loves me, a home, safety." "You have all of it now," Parker said, "and I am going to make sure you keep it." "What about my father?" The question had been nagging at her for months. "What if he comes looking for me?" Parker's hand stilled on her shoulder. "He thinks you are dead, and we will let him keep thinking that. Your name is different now. You are Lily Quinlan, not Lily Norwood, and if he does somehow find out you are alive and comes here, he will have to go through me." His voice went hard. "And I promise you, Lily, he will not get the chance to hurt you again." She believed him. Parker Quinlan was a gentle man, but there was steel underneath, the kind that had been forged in hard country and harder times. He would protect what was his, and she was his now, just as he was hers. The first year of their marriage passed in a blur of hard work and happiness. The ranch prospered, and Parker and Patrick expanded their herd. Lily transformed the cabin into a true home, sewing curtains, planting a garden, filling the space with warmth and laughter. She learned to ride, to rope cattle, to shoot a rifle with reasonable accuracy. Parker taught her patiently, his hand steady on hers as he showed her how to sight down the barrel. "You are a natural," he said after she hit her target 3 times in a row. "I had a good teacher," Lily said, turning in his arms to kiss him. They made love in the meadow that day, the tall grass hiding them from the world, the sun warm on their bare skin. Afterward, Parker pulled her close and told her about his plans to expand the ranch, to build a bigger house, to create something that would last for generations. "Our children will grow up here," he said, his hand splayed across her flat stomach. "They will run through these meadows and learn to ride before they can walk. They will know they are loved and wanted." "Our children," Lily echoed, loving the sound of it. "How many are you planning on?" "As many as you will give me," Parker said with a grin. "Though I would settle for starting with 1. It took another 6 months, but in the spring of 1880, Lily realized her monthly courses had not come. She told Parker one evening after supper, watching his face carefully for his reaction. His eyes went wide, then bright with tears, and then he was lifting her up and spinning her around, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. "We are going to have a baby," he kept saying, as if he could not quite believe it. "We are," Lily confirmed, her hands going to her still flat stomach. "Are you happy?" "Happy." Parker set her down and cupped her face in his hands. "Lily, I am beyond happy. You have given me everything I ever wanted and things I did not even know to wish for, a baby." He shook his head in wonder. "Our baby." The pregnancy was not easy. Lily was sick for the first 3 months, barely able to keep anything down, and Parker hovered like a nervous hawk. He did everything he could to make her comfortable, rubbing her feet when they swelled, holding her hair when she was sick, reading to her in the evenings when she was too exhausted to move. "You do not have to do all this," she protested weakly after he brought her tea and crackers for the 3rd time in an hour. "Yes, I do," Parker said firmly. "You are growing our child. The least I can do is make sure you are taken care of." By the time fall arrived, Lily's sickness had passed, and her belly had swelled to a firm, undeniable curve. She caught Parker watching her sometimes with such tenderness in his eyes that it made her chest ache. He talked to her stomach, his lips pressed against the stretched skin, telling their baby stories about the ranch and the mountains and the life they would have together. "Your mother is the strongest person I know," he said one night, his hand resting gently on her belly. "She survived things that would have broken most people. You are going to be just like her, strong and brave and beautiful." "You are going to spoil this child rotten," Lily said, running her fingers through his hair. "Absolutely," Parker agreed without shame. "And I am going to spoil you too. Both of my favorite people." Their son was born on a cold December night, almost exactly 2 years after Parker had found Lily bleeding in the snow. The labor was long and difficult, and there were moments when Lily thought she might not survive it. But Parker was there the whole time, holding her hand, wiping her face with cool cloths, telling her she could do this, that she was strong enough, that he loved her. When the baby finally came, squalling and red-faced and perfect, Lily wept with relief and joy. Parker cut the cord with shaking hands, and when the midwife laid their son on Lily's chest, he sank down beside the bed and pressed his face against her shoulder. "You did it," he whispered. "You are amazing. Look at him, Lily. Look at our son." The baby had Parker's dark hair and Lily's blue eyes, and when he wrapped his tiny hand around Parker's finger, the big cowboy who had once stopped a knife wound with his bare hands started crying openly. "What should we name him?" Lily asked, exhausted but happier than she had ever been. "Thomas," Parker said after a moment. "After my father, Thomas Quinlan." "Thomas," Lily repeated, testing the name. "It is perfect." Patrick was beside himself when he met his nephew, holding the tiny bundle like he was made of spun glass and grinning so hard his face hurt. "He is beautiful," he said. "You two did good work." "The best work," Parker agreed, unable to take his eyes off his wife and son. The years that followed were full and rich and occasionally chaotic. Thomas grew into a sturdy toddler with his father's determination and his mother's stubborn streak. Parker built the bigger house he had promised, a sprawling ranch home with a wide porch and room for the family he hoped they would have. Lily gave birth to a daughter 2 years after Thomas, a tiny girl they named Sarah who had Parker's gray eyes and a disposition as sweet as honey. The ranch continued to prosper. Parker and Patrick became known throughout the region as honest dealers with good stock. They hired on more hands, and the Quinlan Ranch became one of the most successful operations in the area. But Parker never lost sight of what mattered most. Every evening, no matter how hard the day had been, he came home to Lily and their children, and the look on his face when he walked through the door was pure contentment. "Did you ever imagine this?" Lily asked him one evening as they sat on the porch watching Thomas and Sarah chase fireflies in the meadow. "Back when you found me in the snow," Parker pulled her close against his side. "I imagined hoping you would live. Everything after that has been a gift I did not know enough to ask for." "I think about it sometimes," Lily said quietly. "What would have happened if you had not found me, if you had ridden past, or if you had been 5 minutes later?" "But I did find you," Parker said firmly. "I found you and I stopped the bleeding and you fought to stay alive." Everything else followed from that. We were meant to find each other, Lily. I believe that with everything I am. "So do I," she said, tilting her head up to kiss him. "You gave me a life I could not have dreamed of." "You gave me the same," Parker said. "You gave me a home, a family, a reason to work hard and build something lasting. You gave me love. That is more valuable than any gold strike, any cattle fortune. You are my everything." They stayed on the porch long after the children were called inside and put to bed, talking about their plans for the future, about the expansion Parker wanted to do, about Thomas's first riding lessons and Sarah's endless questions about everything. They talked about the past too, about how far they had both come from those desperate people they had been in the snow. "I forgave him, you know," Lily said eventually. "My father, not because he deserves it, but because I refused to let him have any more of my life. He took enough. The rest belongs to me, to you, to our children." "That is wise," Parker said. "Anger is a heavy thing to carry." "I learned that from you," Lily said. "You could have been angry at the world for everything you lost in Texas, but instead you came here and built something new. You taught me that the past does not have to define the future." "We taught each other," Parker said. "That is what partners do." In the spring of 1885, Patrick fell in love with a widow from Bodie named Mary Hawkins who had a young son. The wedding was a big affair, and afterward Patrick and Mary built their own house on the other side of the ranch. The Quinlan holdings continued to grow, and with it, the family. Mary had another son, then a daughter, and the ranch rang with the sound of children's laughter. Lily gave birth to one more child, another boy they named James, who arrived screaming into the world and never really stopped. He was louder than his siblings, more adventurous, constantly getting into trouble. Parker adored him, as he adored all their children, with a devotion that never wavered. "You are a wonderful father," Lily told him one afternoon as they watched James try to climb onto a horse that was far too big for him while Thomas and Sarah shouted encouragement. "I had a good example in my own father, and a very clear example of what not to do in yours," Parker said. "These children will never doubt that they are loved. I will make sure of it." And he did. Parker Quinlan was the kind of father who taught his children to ride and rope and work hard, but who also read to them every night, who dried their tears and celebrated their victories, who made them feel safe and cherished. He was patient with their mistakes and generous with his praise, and as they grew, each of them became a testament to the kind of man he was. The years rolled past, bringing changes and challenges. There were droughts and harsh winters, cattle diseases and market downturns. But the Quinlan family weathered it all together, growing stronger with each trial. The children grew up strong and confident, secure in the love of their parents and the community they had built. Thomas became a rancher like his father, taking over more and more of the daily operations as Parker grew older. Sarah married a doctor from Sacramento and moved to the city, though she visited often with her own growing family. James went east to college and came back with a law degree, setting up practice in Bodie, and using his skills to help the ranchers and miners navigate the increasingly complex legal landscape of California. Through it all, Parker and Lily remained the center of everything, their love for each other as strong at 40 as it had been at 25. They still sat on the porch in the evenings, though now they were watching grandchildren chase fireflies in the meadow. They still talked for hours about everything and nothing, still reached for each other in the night, still looked at each other like they were the answer to a question the other had been asking their whole life. "You have any regrets?" Parker asked Lily one evening as they celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. The house was full of family, children and grandchildren and friends, but they had stolen a moment alone on the porch. "Not a single one," Lily said without hesitation. "Everything I have, everything I am, started the day you found me in the snow and refused to let me die. You gave me life, Parker, not just by stopping the bleeding, but by showing me what life could be. You gave me love and safety and a family. You gave me everything." "You gave me just as much," Parker said, pulling her into his arms. "You gave me a reason to build a home to come back to, children to raise and love. You made me better than I was. You made me whole." He kissed her then, soft and sweet, and Lily kissed him back with all the love and gratitude and joy she felt. They had built something remarkable together, something that would outlast them both. A ranch, a family, a legacy of love and hard work and devotion. When they broke apart, Lily rested her head on Parker's shoulder and looked out at the meadow where they had made love that first spring, where their children had played, where their grandchildren now ran and laughed in the fading light. "This is what heaven looks like," she said quietly. "No," Parker said, pressing a kiss to her hair. "This is what love looks like, and we built it together." The party went late into the night, full of music and laughter and stories told around the big table that Parker had built when they first moved into this house. Their children toasted them, their grandchildren performed a song they had rehearsed, and Patrick gave a speech that had everyone laughing and crying at the same time. "To Parker and Lily," he said, raising his glass, "who taught me that love is not just about finding the right person, but about becoming the right person. Who showed me that family is built not just by blood, but by choice and dedication and showing up every single day. Who took something that could have been a tragedy and turned it into a triumph. May we all be so lucky." "Hear, hear," everyone chorused, and Parker and Lily stood together, hands clasped, hearts full, surrounded by everything they had built. Later, After the guests had gone home and the grandchildren had been tucked into beds scattered throughout the house, Parker and Lily lay together in their own bed, the window open to let in the cool night air. 25 years, Lily mused. It seems like forever and like no time at all. I know what you mean, Parker said. Sometimes I still see that girl in the snow, so determined to survive. But then I look at you now, strong and beautiful and surrounded by family, and I am in awe of everything you have become. We became it together, Lily corrected. I could not have done any of this without you. Maybe, Parker allowed. But you were already strong, Lily. I just gave you a safe place to be strong. She turned in his arms to face him. You did more than that. You loved me when I did not think I deserved to be loved. You built a life with me when I had nothing to offer but myself. You saw worth in me that I did not see in myself. Then we are even, Parker said, because you did the same for me. I was just a cowboy with a ranch and a dream before you. You made me a husband, a father, a man with something to live for beyond the next season's cattle prices. You made my life mean something. They kissed then, slow and deep, and made love with the gentle passion of people who knew each other inside and out, who had weathered decades together and come through stronger for it. Afterward, they lay tangled together, Lily's head on Parker's chest, his fingers tracing the scar on her side that had faded to a thin white line over the years. I am grateful for this scar, Lily said quietly. I know that sounds strange, but it brought me to you. It gave me this life. I am grateful too, Parker said, though I wish you had not had to suffer to get here. If I could go back and change things so that you never got hurt, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would not, Lily said firmly, because this right here, right now, is perfect. And I would not change a single thing about the path that brought us here. Parker held her tighter. I love you, Lily Quinlan. I loved you in the snow, I loved you in the cabin, I loved you on our wedding day, and I love you now. I will love you until my last breath and beyond. And I love you, Lily said. My rescuer, my husband, my partner, my home. Thank you for finding me. Thank you for not riding past. Thank you for stopping the bleeding with your bare hands and refusing to let me go. Thank you for everything. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, two people who had found each other in the worst moment and built something beautiful from it. Outside, the wind whispered through the meadow grass, carrying the scent of wildflowers and cattle and good earth. The ranch slept around them, solid and prosperous, a testament to hard work and determination and love. The years continued to pass, bringing more grandchildren and eventually great-grandchildren. Parker and Lily grew old together, their hair turning silver, their hands weathered by decades of work, but their love never diminished. They were still found on the porch most evenings, watching the sun set over the mountains, talking about the family they had built and the life they had shared. When Parker died at 72, peaceful in his sleep after a full day of working the ranch he loved, Lily held his hand and told him all the things she had told him 1,000 times before. That she loved him, that he had saved her, that their life together had been the greatest gift she had ever received. And though her heart broke to lose him, she knew that she had been blessed beyond measure to have had him at all. She lived another 5 years, long enough to see Thomas's youngest grandson born, long enough to dance at Sarah's daughter's wedding, long enough to watch James argue a case before the California Supreme Court and win, long enough to sit on the porch one last time and look out at the meadow and remember a young cowboy with storm-gray eyes who had stopped in the snow and changed the course of her life. When Lily Quinlan died at 74, surrounded by her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, her last words were, "Tell your father I am coming home." And on her face, was a smile of such joy and peace that everyone in the room knew she had seen something beautiful waiting for her on the other side. They buried her next to Parker on a hill overlooking the ranch, under a spreading oak tree that had been there long before either of them and would be there long after. The headstones were simple, just their names and dates and a single line that Thomas had chosen. They found each other in the snow and built a legacy in the sun. The Quinlan ranch continued on, passed down through generations, each one adding to what Parker and Lily had built. The story of how they met became family legend, told and retold around dinner tables and campfires. The story of a father who abandoned his daughter and a cowboy who refused to let her die. The story of two people who found each other in the darkest moment and chose love, chose hope, chose to build something beautiful from the wreckage. And on winter nights when the snow fell on the Sierra Nevada and the world went quiet and white, some said you could still see them, a young man and woman riding together through the meadow, her head on his shoulder, his arms wrapped around her, both of them whole and happy and home at last. Their great-great-grandchildren still work the ranch, still tell the story, still understand that what Parker and Lily built was more than just a successful cattle operation. It was a testament to the power of one moment, one choice, one act of compassion in the snow. It was proof that love could bloom even in the coldest places, that hope could survive the worst betrayals, that families could be built from nothing but determination and devotion. The legacy of Parker and Lily Quinlan lived on, not just in the land they had worked or the children they had raised, but in the simple truth they had proven with their lives, that sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places, that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes, that sometimes a stranger stopping in the snow is not just a rescue, but the beginning of everything that matters. And that love, real love, the kind that stops bleeding with bare hands and refuses to accept defeat, the kind that builds ranches and raises families and lasts beyond death, is worth fighting for, worth living for, worth everything.